So tell us again what we're making tonight.
So we are making a simple enchilada, but I am infusing with kimchi. So the sauce itself is a traditional salsa roja, but I'm adding kimchi juice instead of tomatoes to give it more of a little twist to it. The filling itself is just a traditional enchilada that everyone uses: peppers, onions. I'm going to use it more of a vegetarian base. Overall, it's a very simple dish. Anybody can really make it. It's not time consuming. It takes roughly about an hour. So I got 4 different peppers. One is the ancho pepper, ancho chile. The other one is the guajillo chile. These two will be going to our sauce. So leaving that on the side. And then the 2 other chilies we are using are the chile poblano peppers, and the serrano. I have 2 halves of an onions. You want to get both sides. The only reason why I like to burn it to the point where you want more of that smoky flavor. The sauce itself, it can be bitter because the ancho pepper. So to balance it out, you have the onions to give it more of a sweeter side. So if you could cut it in half, make sure it's on a whatever stove, flat top you have. Just keep it burnt. I've already ahead of time did the already toasting it. Now toasting it, the key thing about toasting these is you don't want it on too long when you're toasting it, because the point of this is to be pliable. Roughly take about 8-10 seconds both sides, and after that we'll go into breaking these apart, seasoning it, and then we're gonna make the stock. So what I usually roughly do is take the top off. Now, these seeds are actually edible. So in the future, if you decided to make, at any chance you're able to use these, I would save these seeds and toast them, and you can use them as a garnish, whatever you like to put on, maybe spice it up. So I was in the Navy for about 4 years. I traveled the world. I've been deployed 3 times. I've traveled Europe, Asia, and most of South America. I think that's really where it kind of opened my eyes, how culturally different the food that we eat here is not exactly what people in the other countries. It kind of made me decided I needed to go to this school. I needed to go to school, learn more. And after the Navy, I went to Culinary Institute of America in New York. There I studied, learned, got my certifications and everything I need to get, and decided to work at Alinea Group over next, where I work for Brenakis and his team of chefs. I went to Blue Hill, working for Chef Dan, Chef Barber. Some of you are familiar with him on Chef Table. I worked there for about over a year, and that point on, I went to travel. I worked at Oscar for a little bit, and there I went currently at Crown Shy in New York, where James Kent had just recently opened a restaurant. With these peppers, after you toast them, you want to get a pot, and you just dump it all in there. And with the onions, you can just add it in there. With the veg stock that you have, you want to fill it up to a little over it, so it actually simmers down. Now, simmering it, the purpose of this, toasting it gives it more of the flavor. Now, the point of putting veg stock in is so you can smooth it out when you puree in the Vitamix. You have 2 separate kimchis going on. You got one that's going in the filling, and then you have one that's going into the sauce. The sauce itself, you should have over a cup. The filling itself should be about roughly a cup and a half. It's up to your flavor profile. The peppers and the onions are boiling. Let it boil, and then reduce it down so it simmers, and just leave it. Make sure you have oil filled in your pots. Oil should be enough to cover up the potatoes in the pot. You want roughly about medium range of between medium, low on the oil. While we're waiting for the peppers and the onions to be simmering down, reducing, I will start drying out the potatoes and fry the potatoes. While you're doing your prep, the potatoes, I have it already done. I would let them sit in the water so it doesn't oxidize. Now with the potatoes, whatever paper cloth you have, make sure you're draining out the water as much as you possibly could. and then drying them, because the fact that we don't like that whole splash of oil after we put in whatever ingredients in oil, and then that backfires it. So right now I'm having my oils reach roughly between 200 degrees to 175. I don't want it too high. That I'm gonna put to the side at the moment. I have the reduction for the sauce of peppers and onions. The color of the stock itself should be pretty dark at this point. From this point on, I will add the onions and peppers to the Vitamix. Make sure you're adding all of the juice in. You shouldn't have anything left in the pot. We're looking at 2 different cheese. When you're dicing it, when you're prepping it, you should have 1 cup of it being prepped for the filling, and then you just have 1 just full. You don't have to chop it or anything like that. You can have the juice in it still. You just should have about a cup and a half of the separated. Now this is the one I'm using to put into the sauce. Now with this, I'm gonna puree it. You want to make sure when you do it, make sure the Vitamix is low, you're starting it low. And then at that point, you want the consistency to make sure everything is all broken down and all becomes looking like sauce and very thin liquid. I notice there's still chunks of kimchi still in here, so we're gonna let it blend a little more. So at this point, when you do it and blend it, the sauce should be almost like a tomato sauce at that point. I'm gonna go ahead and start straining everything. Now, you don't want to fill up, when you're straining it, you don't want too much of it already in there, because of the fact that you don't want things to be overflowing. You want enough so you can have enough to have that momentum to strain. Now, at this point, when you strain it, when you strain all your sauce, make sure at this point you don't have any clumps or anything like that. I'm gonna walk over to the stove and start showing you the proper way of frying the potatoes. So after drying my potatoes out and making sure there's no moisture in it, I'm just gonna add it to the potatoes. As hence you see, I don't have so much. It's not a lot. It's just enough to coat the potatoes and cover it. At this point, you should see, when you drop 1 potatoes and you should start seeing little bubbles around it. That's where you should be at. Now, after you add all your potatoes in and it's a light bubble showing appearing, you can start heating up your. You can start adjusting the heat of it, and from medium low to low medium to medium, you can actually have it to medium high. Now, frying the potato, it really varies for some people and the temperature of their oven. It should roughly takes about 10-15 minutes to fry them to the perfect crispy golden potatoes. So while the potatoes are frying, I'm gonna start on sautéing the filling, the vegetables. With a saucepan or a fry pan, whatever you have at your house, add a little bit of vegetable oil. Now, when we're heating up our oil on a fry pan, we don't want it to be smoking. Same thing as how we were doing with the potatoes. You'll notice that when you notice the oil is going to start be able to maneuver around easily. That's when you know it's heating up. Onions, the poblano and serrano peppers, garlic, and kimchi. But the first thing you want to use is your onions. My temperature of my pan is roughly between 200 to 255. Mine will be more like a sweating, so it could be easily molded into the tortilla and have a beautiful color. As that happens, I'm gonna add about 2 tablespoons of garlic. Now, when we're adding in the garlic, make sure we're not like completely burning them. We don't want that. So make sure your heat is still low, medium to medium low still. At this point, we're gonna add the peppers, rest of the peppers, the poblano and serrano peppers. And make sure when you're doing this, you're also keeping an eye on your potatoes. If you want, dust your potatoes around and move your peppers. Now, with the sautés that we're going on right now, you can add the next mixture, which is the kimchi, of the cup of kimchi that we have, that we all prepped and diced. All you're doing is sautéing the kimchi into the mixture. So the color that you should be seeing right now, everything should be pretty cooked at this point. Kimchi should be, if you notice that if it looks dry, that's a pretty good sign. You want it to look dry a little because we're gonna add cheese in later to our filling and the sauce. So your potatoes now should be at golden brown. Should be enough. Looks almost like a French fries at this point. You want to transfer it over to the sheet tray or plate that you were using to dry off your potatoes earlier. At this point, after I pulled out all my potatoes out of the oil, I just place it out to let it dry, and I just season it with just salt, just to give it more flavor. And then I just added the potatoes into the mixture that we were. I'm gonna add some little more salt for seasoning, a bit of pepper. Now at this moment, you can add a little bit of your cumin and oregano. So as soon as the potatoes itself is nicely and gently mixed, we're gonna remove it from the heat. In front of me have the salsa roja and enchilada sauce that we made earlier. I have cheese that will be used as a garnish and also into the filling. I have the chopped cilantro for garnish, your queso fresco, and then you should have about four to six flour tortillas, a little pot that's able to go into the oven. I'm gonna put the sauce into the bottom of this container, so when it's fully cooked, everything around it is fully cooked, and that the tortilla won't be stuck to the container. So you should have enough. You should cover the bottom of your container enough to cover and coat it, and then I add the flour tortilla into forms of the ways I want it to mold it to. You're almost making a burrito in a container is the best way I can phrase it. You have all the flours, tortillas, all nicely placed into the container. I'm gonna add the first round of cheese into the tortilla. I'm gonna add the filling. But the key is to make sure you're not overfilling it, because in the end you have to wrap it up. So have enough space for that adjustment. Both sides should be able to be overlapped. At this point, you're kind of like playing around with your burrito almost, and like I'm kind of like rolling around into the sauce as we do it. The bottom part where all the sauce we laid it onto should now facing upwards. At this point, you should be around all rolled up. I like to put more sauce on top. The sauce itself is going to cook the enchiladas. And then all the leftover cheese I have, I'm just going to sprinkle on top. So earlier I was mentioning that oven should be preheated 350. I hope everyone has done that, because I'm about to pop this in the oven to let it cook. It should take about 15 minutes for all the cheese and the enchilada itself to cook through. I'm gonna add queso fresco first. If you have sour cream, you can definitely garnish it with sour cream. Eat it on the side. I will go with the more traditional queso fresco and cilantro for the sake of Cinco de Mayo.